With another win for Bernie Sanders, does this make the Sanders steamroller unstoppable? Democrats in the media are freaking out about the possibilities that a socialist could win the Democrat presidential nomination. And never-Trumper David Frum calls President Trump the fattest, least physically capable president since FDR. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. I was spending my time partially campaigning and partially moving into this new studio. I told you it was coming. It should look pretty much the same to you. We've got some changes on the back shelf there, but the room, the comfort, it's just so much better. I'm so excited to be here. So now we can really dive into some politics. And we're going to have to start with the elections on Saturday because the Democrats' worst nightmare may be coming true. And that is, on the heels of Iowa and New Hampshire, Bernie Sanders won again. This time, he won big in Nevada. When you put all the county convention delegates together, Bernie Sanders won 47% of those to Joe Biden in second place at 21% and Mayor Pete at 13%. So what that means for delegates coming out of Nevada is Joe Biden picked up 2, Mayor Pete picked up 1, Bernie Sanders picked up 13. No one else picked up anything. Elizabeth Warren in Nevada finished 4th. Amy Klobuchar finished 5th. So you can see that there is big momentum for Bernie Sanders. He was all excited. He didn't even wait around in Nevada. Super Tuesday, we've got an election coming up Saturday in South Carolina, but Super Tuesday, which includes a host of states that I'll get to in a second, that is big. One of them is Texas. That's where Bernie was. He was actually giving his victory speech in San Antonio Saturday night, and here's what he said.
Based on what I have seen today in Texas, we were in El Paso, we're here now. Don't tell anybody. I don't want to get them nervous. We're going to win the Democratic primary in Texas.
So clearly he has confidence. You can see it. And the way he says things, the way he's carrying himself, he's got the momentum. He feels it. He knows it. And then he lets his crowd, his supporters, hear the news.
I think all of you know we won the popular vote in Iowa. We won the New Hampshire primary. And according to 3 networks in the AP, we have now won the Nevada caucus.
All right, so Sanders was the big winner. But this time, Joe Biden, as I mentioned, actually finished second. So despite what's been going on, there was actually a little bit of good news. You know, he went into Iowa with big expectations, finished 4th. Went into New Hampshire, talked about winning it. He finished 5th. So this time, a second place was pretty good considering what he's been going through right now. Here's a report from Fox News. One of those candidates Bloomberg would like to see drop out is Joe Biden. But the former vice president seemed energized after he was on course for a second place finish. After Biden suffered disappointing 4th and 5th place finishes in the overwhelmingly white Iowa caucuses and New Hampshire primary, a stronger performance in Nevada's much more diverse electorate was a necessity for the former vice president. No final results yet, but I feel pretty good, Biden told the crowd. The press is ready to declare people dead quickly, but we're coming back and we're going to win. A pumped-up Biden then looked ahead to primary elections on February 29th and March 3rd. We're in a position now that we haven't been in until this moment, he said. We're going to win in South Carolina and then Super Tuesday. So as I mentioned, there are a ton of elections coming up. Next on the list, actually, is South Carolina on Saturday. But then a week from tomorrow, Super Tuesday has these states right here. It has Alabama, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, and Virginia. So on the same day, a week from tomorrow, you've got California, you've got Texas, you've got other states. A lot of delegates are at stake. A lot will be known coming out of that day on who really has the momentum, who has the lead, If Bernie Sanders keeps rolling like he does, this could lock it up right here. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Democrats squirm and if they can find someone, if they can find an establishment, a moderate to rally around. Joe Biden, Michael Bloomberg, who knows? But right now, the Sanders steamroller is rolling on. And it has the Democrats, the media, freaked out. The establishment does not know what to do. They don't know how to handle Bernie Sanders in this socialist agenda. And here's a report from the Washington Examiner. Ahead of his decisive victory in the Nevada caucuses, Sanders tweeted out a message that has been a central theme in his campaign. I've got news for the Republican establishment. I've got news for the Democratic establishment. They can't stop us. Such a message, though pivotal to his campaign and adored by his supporters, sparked anger among traditional Democrats across media and politics. With strong Sanders showings in the early voting state contests so far, multiple candidates in the Democratic field have begun ripping the Vermont senator for his ideology of socialism, which they claim is not representative of the public. Well, it's not representative of the public, but it is representative of who's voting in the Democratic field so far and who is leading the Democrat Party. Who's raising more money for House Democrats right now? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Who's leading in the presidential field? Bernie Sanders. They're socialists. Those are the ones driving the agenda on the left. Those are the ones raising the money. Those are the ones winning. Those are the ones people are voting for. It's the left right there. So the general public doesn't like it, but that's who the Democrats are going for. And it has the media just, they don't know what to think. And a recent report showed Chris Matthews over at NBC saying some just eye-raising stuff that's really gotten him criticized. People are wanting him to be fired, bringing up World War II references. And here's that report. MSNBC host Chris Matthews compared Sanders' victory in Nevada to the Nazi regime's takeover of France during World War II. I was reading last night, Brian. I know that you're a history guy. I'm reading last night about the fall of France in the summer of 1940, Matthews said. And the General Renault calls up Churchill and says, "It's over." And Churchill says, "How can it be? You've got the greatest army in Europe. How can it be over?" He said, "It's over." Additionally, James Carville, former advisor of President Bill Clinton, attacked Sanders as a communist after he called Carville a political hack. So you see, the media's freaking out. There's been more interviews, more commentary. CNN, MSNBC, Democrats' establishment in general, they don't know what to think. But here's the thing, is that they may be embarrassed of Sanders, but this is the way the Democrats are going. It is being driven, it is being led by the far left. And I always try and contrast this. I've said it before, that sometimes I talk about Democrats, Adam Schiff or Nancy Pelosi, Democrats leaders in Washington, but then I also refer to the left. And I try and make a distinction because I grew up at a time when Democrats were the ones who wanted to raise your taxes a little bit. Republicans wanted to lower your taxes, and then you'd have a debate. Democrats wanted more government, Republicans wanted less government, and you'd have a debate. Well, now there is the left. The left is different from those old school Democrats. The left has an agenda that is very calculated, very strategic, and very patient. And they've been at it for decades, and you see the results. You see this control that they are bringing to themselves in major areas of society. And that's why there is no doubt in my mind that the greatest threat to our country is the rise of the left and their agenda to basically destroy not only the American culture, the American economy, and everything in its path. They have taken control of entertainment. They have taken control of the media, big tech, deep state government, education, everything. Every one of those major areas of society is being controlled by the left. And you see it in example after example. And here's just another one. Here is an education example from the Washington Times. Republican lawmakers in Maryland are criticizing a history lesson at a public high school near Baltimore that compared President Donald Trump with Nazis and communists. A slide used in an advanced placement history class at Loch Raven High School in Towson shows a picture of Trump above pictures of Nazi swastika and a flag of the Soviet Union. 2 captions read, "Wants to round up a group of people and build a giant wall," and, "Oh, that is why it sounds so familiar." Baltimore County Councilman Wade Koch called it a piece of propaganda that didn't belong in the classroom. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. They're going after President Trump, and it's all part of the agenda, because not only are they anti-Trump, they promote an agenda that's anti-American. It's anti-Christian, it's anti-family, and they've done it over decades in the major areas that I've talked about. And here's more of the story. Charles Herndon, a spokesman for Baltimore County Schools, said students in advanced high school classes are discerning, intelligent students who are going to be able to draw their own inferences and draw their own conclusions. The topics being discussed in the class include world wars and the attempts by some leaders throughout history to limit or prevent migration into certain countries. In isolation and out of context with the lesson, the image could be misunderstood, the school district said in a statement. The school system said the issue had become a personal matter, which will be appropriately addressed by the school administration and is not subject to further clarification. So basically, they got caught. We're not going to talk about it. But the next instance, when people aren't paying attention, they're going to slip some of this stuff in again and keep going until we either fight it hard or they just take over. So finally, I want to leave you with Never Trumper David Frum, who used to be a speechwriter for President George W. Bush, a so-called Republican speechwriter guy, media guy. He now writes for The Atlantic, left wing, still claims to be a Republican, but is definitely a never Trumper. He went out, and there was a segment on CNN's Reliable Sources, which that's a funny name for a CNN show, talking about this Russia manipulation of the 2020 elections and how the spin is out there and how President Trump tries to do the same thing. And here's the report. The Atlantic staff writer David Frum said Sunday that President Donald Trump is one of the fattest presidents ever, the least physically capable president since Franklin Delano Roosevelt was in a wheelchair. Frum, a notable never-Trumper who once worked as a speechwriter for former President George W. Bush, told CNN's Reliable Sources that the president is so physically unfit he can't pick up a ball. So what is this? Because President Trump is just so hated by David Frum and others, he tries to put President Trump in this same light. And the reason he did it, the reason he brings it up, is because of the 2016 election cycle when President Trump was going after Hillary Clinton for her lack of physical stamina. And here's more of the story. One of the ideas that Donald Trump tried to spread in 2016 is that Hillary Clinton was somehow physically incapable of managing the presidency. It's audacious. Donald Trump was the oldest president ever, one of the fattest presidents ever, the least physically capable president since FDR was in the wheelchair. Frum continued, he can't pick up a ball, never mind throw it. But he was able to put in the minds of tens of millions of people the idea that Hillary Clinton, who was a very vigorous woman and in good health, was somehow too sick to be president. Give me a break. How many videos did we see of Hillary Clinton falling or tripping or fainting or getting sick, canceling events because she didn't feel good? All President Trump did was bring that up. And now this guy, going off trying to make a tie of disinformation, brings President Trump, calls him the fattest, least physically capable president since FDR. This is the kind of talk that the left has. This is all they can resort to because President Trump keeps winning. Republicans are winning. Democrats are nominating socialists, and that's where they stand. So, folks, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, and when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified, and we'll see you next time. I'm Bobby Everly. This is a 13-minute news hour. Okay, friends, just a little reminder before you go, and no, this does not count against my 13 minutes. Please hit the subscribe button below and tell your friends. And if you happen to miss our last show, you can check it out right here. And also for great conservative news and commentary, please check out GOPUSA.com. All right, folks, we'll see you on the next show. Have a great day.